This is the Tame Aperture podcast.
Open the pod bay doors, Cal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Welcome to the Tame Aperture podcast, where we talk about all things movies from first-time directors, indie films, art house, and much, much more. Today, we're joined by filmmaker Miguel Ferrer to discuss his film, The Shadow of the Sun. As always, we'll give you the IMDb logline because I am not a creative writer. When a deaf young man asks his estranged older brother to join him in a musical contest, this blue-collar worker must dust off his musical chops in order to be his little brother's voice so that the world can finally hear him. That's much better than anything I could have come up with. We really appreciate Miguel for coming on the show because it's a great movie. Once you get to see The Shadow of the Sun, you will love it. It's pretty inspirational, and just the way that he put the film together it's fun. I love talking to filmmakers. It's my favorite thing.
It's an Oscar-nominated film for the country of Venezuela. And Miguel, great movie about growth, moving on, and really just kind of learning how to not lose hope. It's like just keep fighting for your passion, and I think he does that and shows that in the film. It's a great movie.
Agreed. All right, here's our interview with Miguel Ferrer. We are joined by filmmaker Miguel Ferrer, here to talk about his film, The Shadow of the Sun. We had a chance to see it. Great job. Congratulations. What a film. It looks beautiful. It showcases the beauty of Venezuela. I really had a good time watching it. And to start off, I'm always dying to jump into the filmmaking aspects and the war stories and all the stuff that goes along, while you're shooting. But why don't you give us a little background, your filmmaking background, your influences, anything like that?
I was born and raised in Venezuela. I have a Cuban mother, a Spanish father. I went to Miami in '96 when I was 12, and then did middle school, high school, college there, and then I came out to LA, and I've been in LA 18 years. Film was always a big part of my life. My mom was a dancer, a semi-professional dancer, and my dad always had a Betamax on his shoulder. So back in the day, he would go to these adventures in Venezuela, Canaima, Roraima, the Andes, with his Betamax, and he would come back with all these stories, these adventures, and he would edit them. He had like titles and music, and he would, do hand drawings and then shoot that and then do the intro like that. And then he would present us, myself, my mom and all the friends, the 1 hour, an hour and a half adventure that they had. And they were laughing the whole time. And, when they got flat tires, when they got like the cars into the rivers, etc. So to me, it was like, wow, like an adventure. And I want to be a part of that adventure, right? So that was a big influence, and then we loved movies and we loved television. So they always took me to the cinema. And there's movies that I knew that I loved cinema when there's certain movies that even as a teenager changed me completely. I went into the movie a 14-year-old boy and I came out of there a man. And then throughout my life, in certain moments, there has been movies that have changed me and have spoken to me in so many different ways. And from very early on age, I took it upon I would borrow, my dad's high 8 video camera, and then I would go shoot, stuff with friends. And whenever a teacher had like a PowerPoint presentation that we needed to do for whatever, for Seville, for Spain, tell us everything about Sevilla. And I would be like, hey, can I shoot a movie instead of a PowerPoint presentation? And then they said, what? Yeah, I got the script, like the whole group were on a cruise ship and then it hits some rocks and then we had to jump out of the cruise ship and then we landed in the shores of Sevilla, sorry, not Sevilla, Valencia, Spain. And then we had to go into the culture, learn about the architecture, the agriculture, the food, the arts, the political landscape of that place. And then we're recording this whole adventure. So we would do production design, do sets. I would do things that I didn't realize was film. There was no teacher teaching me these things. There was no YouTube, no Instagram in those days. but I was doing production design, I was doing composition, I was telling my friends how to act and directing without knowing that that's what I was doing. So that's that's it was always ingrained in me in that way. And then when I came out to LA, my first job, well, my second job, my first job was really washing dishes, just to to keep the make money enough money for rent. And then my second job, about 4 months in, was as a cameraman for National Geographic. And then I did that for about a year and a half, and then I was a post producer, sorry, post coordinator first for Warner Brothers for television, and that taught me, well, while the Nat Geo thing taught me how to throw myself up the mountain with a camera, the Warner Brothers TV stuff taught me how to finish a product at a high quality and a high level. And then I started directing music videos, then commercials, and then I started doing narrative, diving into the world of narrative, which is what I always wanted to do. Longer story of how I came to do that specifically, but that's pretty much it. I did a couple shorts, and then I did Shadow.
I love hearing the stories of filmmakers. Like as filmmakers, I think we all like stole our parents' cameras and went and made things, you know. Did you have willing participants? I had to coerce my friends and like kind of make them do it. Did you have were they into it?
Well, the ones in school, they were into it because they would much rather be doing that than a PowerPoint presentation, so they were in. And then when I did the first one when I was 12, then every year that we had something, everybody wanted to be in my group because they wanted to, do the thing, right? They wanted to be in the movie and and be funny, right? Afterwards, when I did my first music video, like my first music video that was by Della Soul. It wasn't a professional music video. They didn't call me to do it. I just picked up one of De La Soul's songs that I liked, and I told a bunch of my friends, "Come do it, and let's do a funny video with this." And then they were great on the first day. They did not want to come back because I told them like, "You got to do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again." And so then I had to literally coerce them. I had to tell them like, "I'll take you to lunch. I'll take you to the movies." And then that's how we would do our first little like semi-pro music videos.
Do you remember which De La Soul track it was?
Oh
Because
yeah,
I'm a
it
huge De
was.
La Soul fan.
All right, all right. It was the second one was Ooh,
Yep.
and the first one, because we did two, like 2 years later, the first one was um damn, and I gotta remember the
That's
song.
okay. Ooh,
Ego Trip.
yeah,
Ego Trip. Ego
I
Trip.
love that.
That was the song.
I'm trying
It's
to
still
remember.
out there, by the way. It's still on YouTube. You can look it up.
I love that.
Yeah.
We might have to track that one down. That sounds amazing. Well, that is. I love hearing the backgrounds and the stories. What were there any films you talked about? There were some films that really inspired you when you were younger. Can you name one or two of them? I know Gabe's is
Yeah.
Star Wars, right?
No,
No?
no.
Oh, I thought that was the one.
I love Star Wars. I mean, but yeah, that's not it.
Okay.
Sorry.
So I think the one that really like cemented itself was Meet Joe Black. I was actually wanted to go see a movie, and I told my mom, let's go watch a movie. And then I opened up the newspaper to see what was playing where. I know I'm dating myself. Back in the day, where you had to do that, and then you see all the posters in black and white. And I see a movie called Starship Troopers, and I'm like, yo, I want to see that. And I tell my mom, Mom, let's go see it. We're in Kendall, we're in Miami. Let's go see that. And then she's like, Starship Troopers, what's that about? It's about aliens, some fucking big cockroaches and aliens and insects. And I don't know. That's it. That's all I know about. And she's like, no, we're going to go see Meet Joe Black. And I'm like, okay. I look at the poster and I say, nah, Brad Pitt, I don't want to see this romance thing. What? I don't want to. No.
If you had looked
You
at the
go
running
see.
time, you would have also not wanted to go see it.
Exactly, exactly. I don't think that registered, when I was 14, the running time. I don't think they had it. But but I was like, okay, you go see that. And at, 4 minutes, 10 minutes later, or 30 minutes later, there's a Sergeant Troopers. I go see that. We come out at the same time. And then she's like, no, we're gonna see Meet Joe Black. So I was like, okay, go see Meet Joe Black. And I went in there, a punk, and I got out of there, I say a young man, because seeing that story, how this omnipotent, omnipresent, eternal being wants to, come down and see what it is like to be human, and how he doesn't take anything for granted, not even a spoonful of peanut butter. Um, you go, wow, like, why don't I live like that? Why don't I live with that zest, with that hunger? And I came out of there, and at the time, track and field was my passion. And I dove in and I became a semi-pro athlete, and then I did everything to the best of my abilities because I didn't take it for granted.
I love that. I think a lot of that, like when first off, with Shadow of the Sun, beautiful film, well done.
Thank you.
So, and kind of segueing into what you're saying there, not taking things for granted and really pushing through and persevering and really dedicating yourself to a certain thing. What I'm curious about that particular film, The Shadow of the Sun, is you talked about this history of going through with your family and like, oh, my inspiration from your dad, and then going to the movies with your mom. But it's like, when did you sit down and go, oh, I'm going to write? I'm actually, because this is a different approach, as you know. It's like writing is a whole nother beast. So I'm just curious, like when you decided, hey, I want to write The Shadow of the Sun, what was that process like, and maybe how long it took you to get there until you actually got to a place where you were ready to go make it?
It was 2021. I went to the closing night of the Los Angeles Latino International Film Festival, and it was the first film festival I had ever gone to in my life in the States. I had a commercial career and a TV career, so I wasn't in that circle. First time at a festival, I see the closing night film, Lisa Feliciano's Women is Losers. I meet the director of the festival, I meet everybody. I get so inspired, and I say to myself, why am I not presenting a film at this festival? Like, what am I doing? Who's stopping me? And the answer was, I'm stopping me. It's me. I haven't made the decision. I haven't put my mind into it. So I said, okay, what can I do? I've had several scripts float around, and people, tell me they're going to give me 5 million, 10 million for this, then you wait and then nothing happens. What can I do that's just me, that I can do myself? So I had these elements, I had Venezuela, I knew Manuel Gonzalez, I knew the technicians in Venezuela. I had a little bit of a musical background growing up in the music video industry, all that. And then one night, it just, a spark came in. And the spark was that scene, that climactic scene between the three of them, where Alex comes in and confronts Yolanda.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to say what he says, not to spoil it, but it's that line that he says to her, and then that, and I go, okay, there it is. And what's the story? How do I get there? Okay, it's the story of two brothers. One is beautiful, has a beautiful voice, a gift that he's thrown away, and then the other one is deaf and doesn't have the voice and wishes he has that voice, and in fact has more of a voice than his brother. I call up Carlos Manuel Gonzalez right away that night, and I say, this is the story. I'm going to write this. I'm only going to write this if you say yes to this role. And he said yes. So I started writing it. I had already about 35 pages in. I had the treatment. I already knew how it was going to end, what I wanted to say with it, but I couldn't finish it because luckily that year I had a lot of commercial work and I was traveling. So then I enlisted Guillermo de la Rosa, who's a filmmaker and a writer in Toronto, Venezuelan. And I told him, this is the gist of it. Want you to help me finish write it. And I'm not going to ask you to write, I wouldn't ask you to help me write something that I know I'm not going to shoot. So he was in. That was November of 2021. March 2022, I was down in Venezuela. We shot it in April. And then a year later, we premiered it in the same closing night that first inspired me, the closing night of La Leaf. 2
That's
years
great.
to the date of that original moment. The writing process was amazing with him. And also, we tapped a lot into Will Romero, our producer, who's from Acarigua, and his stories. So it's almost like a kitchen sink of my stories, his stories, and stories, Guillermo's stories, and a couple of other ones that we found that were just pure gold. The kind of thing that you go, that we knew that people would say, like, man, you how did you write this? That's genius. And we were like, yeah, we're geniuses. And then like, no, we heard that's like a real life story that we heard, you know. But we were able to thread it into this kind of, narrative about two brothers chasing an impossible dream.
Yeah, I think it's really well written. And you were answering these questions as I had more. I was like, how is it working with talent? But it sounds like you really got talent attached based on a scene that you had wrote in your head and said, I'm not moving forward if we can't get you on board, which is cool. Because I was always
Yeah.
curious, like the writing process, do you write with specific people in mind? Do you write then just cast? But it sounds like there's a lot of inspiration coming from other collaborators. That's cool.
Sometimes I write with somebody in mind. This time it was Carlos, and it was beautiful because his life kind of mimics Leo's story a little bit. Um, and he's somebody with tremendous, as you saw, with tremendous talent. Just a tour de force, and he does it in English, in Spanish, in Italian, and in French. And then people ask me, where did this guy come from? And I go, well, those are the little treasures that are buried in Venezuela
Yeah.
that haven't had the opportunity the last 25 years to shine and to show their talent.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought the acting was phenomenal, and you touch on some things there, and I don't want to get overly political with it, but you do touch on some things with homosexuality and things of that nature, that how that works into the political landscape, as it were, in Venezuela. I'm curious to hear how you had mentioned 25 years of so that just if you could even speak a little bit about that, it'd be interesting to what you guys were thinking when you were going about trying to make a scene like that, even.
100%. It is no surprise to anybody that Venezuela has been under a oppressive dictatorship for the last 25, 27 years. And regardless of how you feel about the subject, you see the results and you have to start asking questions like, here's a country that's not war torn. Here's a country that has insane beaches. The most beaches in the most amount of Caribbean coastline in the Caribbean is ours. Uh, Tourism, culture. And then you go, and how come 25% of the population fled this paradise in 20 years? And you start asking questions, you come face to face with the truth. And we wanted to make a movie that was based set in Venezuela, but that had international legs and that it was for the world. So, with that said, we said we are going to make, and I wanted to make a movie about two brothers that have to reach this impossible dream set in the ambiance of Venezuela, right? So, what is part of that? Well, part of that is you have a power outage every single day. Every single day while we shot, there was a 4.5 hour power outage.
Wow.
You have running water that it comes and goes whenever it wants to. You have rampant criminal activity. You have thugs. You have lack of resources. You have hospitals that do not have gauzes, aspirin, like legit, like things that you hear about in, Middle East war-torn countries. And yet we're talking about a country that used to be the fourth richest country on the planet and that has abundant resource. So why? Why is it that that happened? And it's like, okay, now you start realizing that all those resources go into the pockets of a select few, a select corrupt few, and that's why the population has been starving, literally. Um, Angelo Lopez, who plays Alex, had never acted in his life before. He's a kid from the slums of Caracas, a place called El Valle, and you see him there in the movie. He weighed about, I would say, a buck 15, a buck 20. And when he moved to Spain about a year after we finished the movie, he had to move because he was being threatened, because his life was being threatened by one of the hoodlums in his barrio. And when he moved to Spain, 3 months later, I did a FaceTime with him and he had gained about 25 pounds. And then you realize, oh, why did he gain 25 pounds? And you go, oh, it's because now he has food.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
he can eat. So you look at all this and you go, okay, if I'm going to set a movie in Venezuela about a crazy kid and his brother going to an impossible dream, I cannot shy away from and I don't want to shy away from the reality of what's going on. And I think that Venezuelans appreciate the way that we touch upon it on the film because a lot of Venezuelan films are very, like pamphlet, like political, like in your face, hammering you with a message. And to me, good cinema doesn't fall onto an ideology like that. It can talk about it and it can feed it to you, but never directly because it never works. You have to tell people a great story, a great parable, and then let them come to their own conclusions.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because I really admired the way you brought these elements like the power outages and the water. Gabe and I were talking off mic about how hilarious we thought that scene was with the priest. And just
I
like,
loved that scene.
because I'm thinking like, what if he had someone else in the confessional who was really bearing their soul? Is he still going to run out and, kind of have to? And so
100%.
I like
Yes.
it because it wasn't, it wasn't beat over the head. It was like, this is just daily life. This is what we have to do, and it was really, it brought, you brought some humor into it. It brought some reality into it. And it really kind of shed a light on what daily life is like. And that, to me, it really, the way you used it to really dive into the characters and the storytelling, I really appreciated that because that's not an easy thing to do.
Thank you.
Obviously, you've directed music videos, so music is important to you, and it's important to me. I know it's important to Gabe. So maybe you can talk a little bit about like, was music? Did you know that this journey was going to be surrounded by music? The journey that these brothers are going to go on?
Yeah, for several reasons. One, I'm a frustrated musician. I wanted to play the guitar when I was little, and my dad got me one, and I was like, "This is hard, super hard." And I didn't have a teacher or YouTube, so I was like, "Yeah." After like 3 months, I'm like, "I'm kind of done." Uh, I took up a little bit of piano, but again, just by like ear, like sound, and I can play Moonlight Sonata, and that's it. Barely play it. And then I've always loved music. It's always been a big part of my life. My dad loves classical music, and since he's from Spain, my mom's Cuban, I'm Venezuelan. It was like a kitchen sink of styles and of you have the Cuban, Afro-Cuban music, and then you have the Afro-Venezuelan music, and then you have the gaitas, and then you have the gaitas from Spain. And then also growing up in the States, when I came in here when I was 12, I didn't have any Venezuelan friends. So my friends were Cuban American, but they were mostly American. So I had to blend in. I had to absorb the culture. And what was I listening to? I was listening to Tribe Called Quest, Tupac, Biggie, Uncle Luke, that whole Miami rap and hip hop culture, right? So um, music was always a big part of my life. Then Will Romero, our producer, is a musician, a very talented musician. And then us both growing up in the music video industry, we said, okay, we want to infuse a little bit of music here. And when we said that, it was very easy because they said music is the universal language, music and math, and in the end, math is kind of music and vice versa. And and we said that this is what unites the brothers. It's very poetic to me that that's the language that unites the brothers, and I think that it's something that historically Latinos music has united us. Gloria Estefan, Cuban legend, she united a lot of Cubans, but also a lot of Latinos. With her anthem when she says, in English, I'll translate it. She said with a beautiful song that says, "Let's speak the same language because together, we're gonna make great things." And she was talking to all the Latinos and saying like, we have different cultures, we have different folklores, we have different mythologies, different even religions, but we speak the same language. So, let's get together and move forward. And I think that's what these two brothers do. One of them speaks sign language, yeah, and the other one speaks Spanish. So it's yeah, it was always a big part of the picture.
I love it. It worked out. I mean, it worked out great. And I love making one of the characters deaf, the songwriter deaf. Like, to me, that really, it just, there's so much. I love it when stories have so much subtext and metaphor, and there's so much going on there, because you could just dive into it for hours. And I'm a geek about that stuff, so I love it. So
Me too.
yeah, I can tell. So you co-wrote this thing, you produced it, you directed it, you edited it. Is there ever a point when you're like, I took on too much? Because I know with my little projects, every single time without fail, there's a point where I'm like, this is insane. But taking on a feature like this in Venezuela and trying to juggle the money, the budget, the talent, all that kind of stuff. Was there any point where you're like, oh man, what have I done?
No, because I also camera opted. A lot of people don't know that, but it's a longer story. But Jose Duque was a DP, but I camera opted, and it turned out for the best, and I loved it. Anytime you tell me grab the camera and shoot, I'm there. You don't have to ask me twice. And he asked me, and I told him, you don't have to ask me twice. I love it. Anyways, uh, no, because it didn't feel like a lot, because I've been training for 20 years, for this specific moment. I've been honing my skills as a post supervisor, as a post producer, then as a camera op, and as a director of music videos, and with talent, big talent, no name talent, people that have never acted before, and 30-year veterans, right? So it would never felt it felt more like a blessing, man. It felt like a blessing that I was able to do these things. Now I do commercials, and I do things, and sometimes, they're like, don't worry, we'll take care of the post, or we'll take care of the thing. And then I'm like, okay. And then I look at the result, and it's not the vision that was originally intended. So it gave me an opportunity to really have a singular voice. That was accompanied by a lot of amazing artists and technicians that helped me and enhanced whatever I had to say. They grabbed whatever I had on the page, and they made it better in so many instances. And also, as an editor, that's the one that's tricky, right? Because it's like it's super hard, and they say you got to kill your babies. Um, and they always say, like, oh, that director edited the film, and if there would have been another editor, that would have helped the film. So from those comments, I I remember those comments a lot, and I didn't want that to happen. So basically, what I did was I would edit the film, and I would send it to the producers. They would give me their thoughts, and sometimes I would look at their notes and be like, "This, I hate this note so much. I'm not gonna do it." Then about a week later, I would go in there and I would just do all the notes. I would just pretty much pretend I'm a different person. I'm a hired gun, and I have to do all these notes. I do them. And then I put the film away. 2 weeks later, I see it. Now I see it with fresh eyes. Now I see it with these people's notes. Okay, this works, this doesn't. And like that, we got the film down from 2 hours and 4 minutes to an hour and 40, which 24 minutes is a big, big chunk. I don't think that the other stuff was bad. It's just it was not as efficient as the current cut that you have, right? And also it helped festivals, because festivals, like, 2 hour movie, forget about it. And then an hour and 59 minutes, amazing, right? So
It's that 1 minute.
so
It's always that 1 minute.
yeah.
Well, you did a great job. Sorry, Gabe, did I step on you?
I was just going to ask, around the Oscar nomination, I'm curious, because once again, I'm going to always drop back to this really, I don't want to get overly political necessarily. But it's a representative of Venezuela for an Oscar nomination. So how was that process, and did that Did you get, the pushback there, or was it pretty fluid and everybody? And I don't know how it works, but in the art council there in Venezuela said, "Hey, this is our film," or did you get pushback and did you have to deal with anything like that?
Well, you in Venezuela, you always every year you have to deal with something. Every year there's like some kind of someone or somebody complains. Basically, the way that works is that there's an organization that picks around 25 people, Venezuelans that are in Venezuela, in Miami, in Spain and Italy, directors, costume designers, documentarians, men, women from all different stages of their career. The 25 get invited. You have to propose, you have to send in your resume. Um, and then they have a meeting. They grab the 5 or 6 movies that are eligible. And then they have a meeting, they talk about the movies, and they vote. Then they narrow it down to two. Once they narrow it down to two, they vote again. And then whoever has the most votes wins. And it was a great experience. There was another movie in the running that was a very much a political movie. The director of that movie didn't quite like that his movie did not get picked. So because he was an influencer on social media, went out on social media and said some things. And then, of course, and so how social media works. If somebody famous says that, it must be true.
Yeah.
So, then it went, when those rumors, those things went a little wild. He apologized later, but the damage was already done. And meaning that a lot of people thought that our movie was like a government movie, that, his movie didn't get picked because it was a political movie and the government blocked it, which could have been further from the truth, because the 25 people that picked it have nothing to do with the government. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. In fact, a lot of them are people that can't even go back to the country because they spoke out against the government. Anyways, so there's always those things, but in the end, we did our thing. We took the nomination very seriously with a lot of honor. We did a great campaign. We had like 7 sold out screenings here. I mean, we had a $50,000 marketing budget for campaign budget, whereas Yemen had a $300,000 campaign budget, for their film given by the government. And then, Society of this Note had an $18 million Oscar campaign budget.
Yeah.
So, you don't compete against that. In fact, I met Jota Bayona, the director of Society of the Snow, that one of the days. And I told him, man, we have our biggest screening tonight, man, with Troy Couture, like Venezuelan food. You got to come. And he's like, man, I would love to. I really would, because I really want to see it on the big screen. But I have 4 screenings, and one of them is with Javier Bardem, and the other one's Penelope Cruz. So I don't have, I can't. So like when we had our screening, they had their 4, and 2 of them were with these giants. So, when you compete against that, you just do the best you can, and you represent your country the best in the best way possible, and you bring a story. The idea was always, by the way, that wasn't the goal. The idea was always to bring a story to an audience abroad and be able to tell them, this is who Venezuelans really are. This is who we are. This is our culture. This is our music, our colors, and this is our invincible spirit. Look at these things you see in the movie is literally what they have to go through every single day to do anything. So when you see that, and then you hear this Venezuelan won a Grammy, or this Venezuelan, was a businessman or businesswoman, or this Venezuelan graduated from Cambridge, and then you go, how?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
That's what we wanted to bring to the picture, right? To the international audience.
Well, it's a beautiful movie. I mean, it's a movie about growth. It's about moving on. It's about how to not lose hope. I mean, and then all these other things are mixed into it culturally. It's shot beautifully. So you guys should pat yourself on the back, because it's a really nicely made movie. It's beautiful to watch. So appreciate you sharing it with us. I think the one question I do have is, like, is Magic Films your film company? And if so, do you have something coming down the pipeline that we can look forward to in the future?
It is my production company that we started in 2017. And yes, we do have something coming down the future very soon. and that is a an action horror film. That's
You
actually
you got Alan
my.
right there.
You got me on board already.
All right, all right. So I'll give you the elevator. The elevator is an ex gang member, an ex sicaria in Mexico, has to recruit a Jesuit priest in Brownsville, Texas, and bring him down to Matamoros in order to help her save her younger sister, not only from the prostitution ring that she fell into, but from the demon that's possessing her body.
I'm in.
Uh,
I'm in.
this, the,
I want to see
the,
it now.
the sister's name is Monica, so it's called Demonica. Demonica, right?
I love
Yes.
that. That's great.
And it's like Sicario meets The Exorcist, right? It's that high octane, raw, real life horror of Sicario meets the supernatural elements of religious horror, I guess,
It's a
of The
beautiful
Exorcist
combination. You had me in Sicario when you said that. I was like, okay, there's something. I love that. That's great.
yeah, and that's actually my wheelhouse. That's what I love, genre, horror, thrillers. That's um that's when I get excited when I see a trailer of a good thriller or good horror. I go, I'm there opening day.
Yes.
Sometimes to my detriment, because sometimes I go into opening day to some movies that I was like, that should have been a rental for sure. Uh,
We've all been there.
We have
but
been there. You know what? You're in good company because we are right on board with that. I've been disappointed many times. Well, keep us up to date on that because I definitely want to track the progress of that, and once that comes out, we definitely want to check it out for sure. Where can people watch The Shadow of the Sun?
right now, we just finished our LA theatrical run, and we're about to figure out which of the ways to stream it digitally that we want to put it out. You're gonna be able to stream it digitally or stream it in Netflix or Amazon or Apple. Whoever wants the movie and I think gives the movie the best ground, the best fertile soil for it to grow on. Because sometimes, people say, I got my movie on Netflix. And it's like, yeah, but it's buried in the algorithm and they did nothing with it. So we want a partner that's gonna, bring the story to life. And, we understand they're not gonna give us, F1 marketing, but give us something. I think that the movie deserves to be seen. I think that whoever takes it, their audience, is gonna be happy that they did. I think it's a family movie, a movie that you can watch and that people can hopefully get inspired by and see and say to themselves, you know what, I'm gonna right now, tomorrow, I'm gonna start my dream. I'm gonna start studying for that master's. I am gonna put up that pastry shop. I am gonna write that article. I am gonna do that film. I am gonna write that song. And and they can realize that it's never too late, and that, like the movie, um, and I'm a big proponent of this. You you have to follow in the path of your dreams. You have to walk it. You have to do it. And the reason why you have to is because in order for you to achieve that dream, you have to become the best version of yourself. And if you become the best version of yourself, then you're becoming the best version of yourself for you, for your family, for your friends, for your community, for your country. And you tie it back. You follow your dreams, and the world is going to be all the better for it. And that's Leo, and that's Leo, and that's the realization that Leo has to have. And and then what I hope that people get from this movie, the Oscar, the Grammy, the Emmy, is the treasure that you find along the way in the journey. The people that you find that become your brothers and your sisters and help you in your dream and you help them in theirs. That's the price. So I think that that's worth something, at least worth being on a platform and people to see it.
And definitely worth a watch of this film.
Definitely. When it finds a home, let us know, and we'll spread the word as much as we can because it's a beautiful film. Congratulations. Seriously, it looks
Thank
good.
you.
I mean, especially such a passion project and something that you really took on. And obviously, it takes a ton of people, a ton of talented people to make a film, but you're the driving force, and so it's got to feel good that it's got the recognition it has. Been to the Oscars, like that. Congratulations. That's not an easy feat.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it, and really appreciate the space, guys. And whenever you want to geek out and nerd about movies, I don't have to have a movie. We can just, set it up and we'll talk
You
for
might be
3
coming
hours
on more
about,
regularly then,
Yeah.
Miguel.
we'll talk about the Masters of the Universe trailer and just, what's that? And,
I
what's
watched
the,
it. I watched it a couple times. I mean, I grew up on the original, so I had to watch it. I don't know. I don't know how I feel. I don't know how I feel.
I don't know how I feel. I don't know.
Well, Miguel, thank you so much for joining us. Again, we will let everybody know as soon as the movie becomes available, and I can't wait to see Demonica. I am so stoked. I'm going to keep following the progress of that. So thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Miguel. Very much appreciated.
The Tame Aperture podcast is produced by Dutch Angle Pictures in association with Studio B Productions. Listen, watch, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, and YouTube.